is much more fun to watch than it used to be. That's for sure. It's I love PvP too. PvP and TvT are as mirror matchups are both really awesome. But let's get started with our introductions. First, spawning in the top left-hand corner of the map as the yellow Terran from Team FXO NA. It is Neeb.
And spawning in the bottom right position as the blue Terran player, coming in for Clarity Gaming, it is cMotoK. I like that username, cMotoK.
I know. It's just so simple, yet it sounds so awesome. I don't know what it is. Just the way you say it, cMotoK.
Yeah.
I don't know. I agree with you though. So TVT here. I used to play Terran, but that was almost a year ago. You're going to be the resident Terran master here. Alkaline Waste. Walk-ups through the matchup. What are the norms here? What should we be expecting?
Well, as you know, Zoia, you've seen this a lot as a Zerg player. The Reapers received quite a bit of a buff in Heart of the Swarm, but on this map in particular, it's not as big of a threat because most of the cliffs leading into the main base are the double cliffs, so Reapers can't go up them. TVT, though, has become a lot of really early aggressive builds to start off with. There's been recently in GSTL some interesting Hellbat openers, but for the most part, you generally see either early defensive Widow Mines or a lot of Wings of Liberty builds, but the later game is where things get a bit interesting, but we're already seeing a fast gas here out of Neeb. Nothing just yet for cMotoK.
Yeah, it looks like he's just willing to stay gasless. He's actually going to be taking a delayed gas, judging by the rally of this SCV from the command center. So just doing a little bit of a delayed gas. Frodan used to show me a build that I used to do like this. You get the delayed gas, and all it does is really either lets you get your second barracks a little bit quicker because you have the extra minerals, or allows you to get your command center quicker, and you still have that gas to where you can kind of keep up on tech. So it's nothing too out of the ordinary there from him.
Yeah, in Wings of Liberty, this was kind of like an in-between build that wasn't really efficient for either tech or economy, but in Heart of the Swarm, it's become a pretty standard way to open in a lot of matchups, especially versus Protoss, just because you can get your command center up, but you can also get early Widow Mines for defense, either against the fast drops, like we used to see with Hellbats, or like in other matchups dealing with Oracles, but for the moment, it looks like Neeb is going to be starting his factory, and, well, scouting SCV for Neeb does see pretty much everything, so both of these players have a reasonable idea of what's going on, except cMotoK wasn't able to get in to scout from Neeb getting for that fast wall off, although it's very unlikely he's going to expect any kind of gasless play.
Yeah, it's very greedy to just do a gasless spend. Like you said, the Reaper Scout, it has so much potential. With Widow Mine drops, with having to be able to defend everything. And even if you do delayed gas like cMotoK's doing, it's best to take your gas and just follow with your expand. And that's what he's doing. He's got his command center down, starting the reactor on that barracks, going to be producing double Marines at a time. We're just swapping this factory over for the Widow Mine or Hellion production. And also Neeb starting his command center as well. So both players, not really going for any aggressive one-base styles, both wanting to play this game out.
Yeah, and the big difference in terms of the way these builds have panned is with Neeb going for that expansion, he's only about 20 seconds behind in terms of the command center production, but his factory is already done, his reactor is about to complete, he's going to be able to move into faster Hellions or Widow Mines, and possibly a faster starport if he wants to get that early on, so he has a slightly faster tech advantage, but a little bit more minerals were mined by cMotoK, getting his gas a little bit later, so the builds are going to pan out fairly evenly with the factory completing for cMotoK, but I assume the deviations are going to come up now, and we have an armory coming up for Neeb and a starport for cMotoK.
So the armory is definitely something that you're familiar with currently, but we do see the starport play from cMotoK. This is just standard 1-1-1 style. He could do some drop harass with some Widow Mines. That's exactly what he's going to be doing. Dropping Widow Mines in the main base. Follow up with Marine harass. But why don't you walk us through what a Neeb seems to be doing?
Yeah, so Neeb started a starport now. His command center is complete. He's going to get the orbital command, but he's building this armory. And what he wants to time this with, as his Widow Mine's complete, so shall that armory. And he's going to be able to manually just produce Hellbats straight from the factory. He doesn't have the transformation servo, so his any regular Hellions, of course, can't switch. But now he can just raw produce them. And with this starport, he can actually start making this. But a scan from cMotoK sees everything. He spots the armory, the starport, and the factory. So he has an idea of what's going to be coming after him. And now we see the Hellbats coming out for Neeb, and at the same time, it's just going to be defensive Widowmine opening for cMotoK. He's building a Viking out of his starport. He's not going for a fast medevac to do a drop, and he's spreading his mines out to try to cover the really key points around his base. So with good Widowmine hits, he can hold this attack fairly well, but it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, I mean, even with the scan, it's like, oh, hey, he's going to Hellbat drop me. That doesn't stop it from being a Hellbat drop. It's still extremely powerful, extremely hard to deal with and control properly, because Hellbats, they are so insane in the early game how much damage they can do. It'll take top control from cMotoK to be able to defend this flawlessly. We'll have to see how much damage that Neeb is going to be able to do. That medevac is moving across the map right now with those first 2 Battle Hellions inside. And like you said, the defense for him is pretty solid right now. He's got the Widow Mines in the main, Widow Mines in the natural, and Hellions and Marines spread out through the main base. But here comes that medevac.
Yeah, and there's really not too much space for him to go in. If he tries to duck out by the mineral line of the natural, he could run into this Widow Mine. He's going to do that. Oh my goodness, barely gets outside. The Widow Mines will pick off one of the Hellbats, the other one with very little health left. And cMotoK defends that pretty easily. It takes minimal losses, and for Hellbat opening out of Neeb, I mean, both players have their expansions, but this looks like we're going to probably see this game stabilize. There's another Hellbat drop moving out, but the defenses for cMotoK are only getting stronger.
I mean, yeah, like he said, that was almost flawless. He lost 1 SCV, and that was to his own little bang. So, I mean, you've done this a lot. I mean, you know the destructive power this build can do, and that's definitely something you want to smile about when you hold it off that well. Armory started here for cMotoK. He's getting out his first Raven as well. I mean, this delayed Armory, is this pointing... Actually, it looks like both players might be going mech.
Yeah, mech has kind of been a little bit more difficult to do in Heart of the Swarm just due to medevacs being able to speed across a lot of defenses for doom drops, abusing the mobility of mech armies. But if you know that your opponent is going mech, or if both players kind of see that each other are doing it, it's not as big of a threat. We do have, with that army completing for cMotoK, though, it is looking like he wants to do that. We have 2 factories being added on actually for each player. So, like you said, it'll be mech versus mech, and on this map, the pocket 3rd or 4th is really easy to defend, but the Widow Mines take out the medevac heading into the main base with 2 Hellbats.
Yeah, and at the same time, the drop was going on at the natural base, doing very little damage, only hitting 1 SEV and taking it down. The drop's moving back its way through the main base to get away. Lost both those Hellions. You know, and this Battle Hellion drop harass has been shut down so well by cMotoK. I mean, these have done the least amount of damage possible with these things. This is really phenomenal play from cMotoK. He's got his 3rd command center on the way. Like you said, he did add on the additional factories, and we're going to have mech versus mech. This is actually something I have not seen in TBT, so I'm actually pretty excited to get to cast this.
Yeah, a 3rd orbital command finishing for Neeb, but when it comes to mech versus mech in TBT Heart of the Swarm, a lot of it can come down to the number of Hellbats that you have. The siege tanks, of course, were very, very important in Wings of Liberty, but the Hellbats just take little damage from those tanks, and looks like another drop being shut down here by these Widow Mines. Gonna get in here, kill a couple of these SCVs. 7 kills so far between these 2 Hellbats, so not terrible. He's gonna drag him around a little bit.
At the same time, cMotoK tried to drop the main base of Neeb, but he was more than prepared for it. He did scout it with that barracks and was just well in position. He did not lose that medevac, though. Did get fairly close. Actually, he did drop out some of his Hellions and ended up losing 3 of them, it looks like. A beautiful, shutdown again. I mean, both these guys are on their defenses very, very well. And I want to talk about how aggressive Neeb has been. He's been on the move since he got that first starport out, constantly sending Battle Hellions across the map. And it looks like he's taking lots of damage, but in all honesty, he's lost 2 medevacs and 6 Hellions. That's, at the 12-minute mark, you would have normally lost that doing a run-by or just small little engagements, And we can see he's still way ahead in supply, Despite doing no damage, he's on top of his macro and looking really strong right now.
Yeah, and the last drop actually got a little bit of damage in. So the cool thing about Hellbat drops, and he has another one coming in right now, is that if they kill something, they're almost super cost-effective because of how cheap Hellbats are. He's going to come in here, kill 2 SCVs, and then just zip out. So even losing the medevacs and Hellions, since both players are going mech, it's so hard to trade. He's going to get a drop in here. The Vikings will pick off the medevac. Hellbats does a pretty good job of keeping his SCVs away from them, and now the Hellions and the siege tanks will kill this off, but he's losing a lot of mining time by not being able to protect this. And the Hellbat pressure is just so good to see in even any matchup where you're going mech, be it Terran versus Terran or versus Zerg. The Hellbat drops just do so much damage if they can get in. Like you said, he defended the first couple very well, but he's got 13 SCV kills just off of the 1 Hellbat drop that went really well. We have another drop heading for cMotoK into Neeb's natural.
Yeah, he's doing a good amount of damage too. He'd really harassed that third base, getting a lot of SCV kills here at this natural. The Hellions get taken down though. If we look at the Harvester's kill tab, 10 killed on MotoK's end, 13 on Neeb's. Now, if we look at that income tab, it's 63 to 54 in favor of Neeb, and his third base is actually mining right now. You know, that is a big thing to point out. He's got the extra gas. He's currently mining on 6 gas compared to his opponent. He'll have the higher siege tank count, have the higher Raven, Viking, and Thor count as well. You know, Neeb, I mean, look at his supply right now. It is just skyrocketing.
Yeah, it's starting to really tilt in favor of Neeb right now. MotoK has a pretty decent setup. I like the Raven mixed in with the army composition, but there's just a big force coming in for Neeb. He has a lot of Hellbats, so, you know, like I said, it's so easy to charge tank lines. In Wings of Liberty, if you had a slight advantage, you could try to push in, but with this many Hellbats, the tanks won't be able to kill. He's going to drop some Seeker missiles onto the siege tanks. The tanks will try to run away. He's going to pick those, but they still have a little bit of health, and now this Hellbats just do so much damage to these siege tanks. Neeb pushing through MotoK's army like a hot knife through butter.
It's just like you said, man. Whoever has the Hellbat count, you're probably going to take to fight. The Seeker missiles were cute and all. We didn't really see any point defense drones, but I mean the Hellbat number, it was an 8 in favor of Neeb, and he just tore through that army. Wasn't even sieged up. He didn't care, and just devoured that army. Thor doing as much damage as possible. More Vikings joining the fray. He's going to have that air dominance for a while, and he's going to sit over his opponent's natural and keep the siege. And with this 2 base contain while Neeb's on 3 base, it's looking really good for FXO right now.
Yeah, dropping to a below 100 supply. MotoK taking more damage. The Hellbats pressuring in, and their size makes the splash damage from the tanks not as big of a deal. The Thors will come in and punch these tanks out. Nothing left to defend at the natural. The SCVs are going to be pulled, and it looks like Neeb pretty commandingly taking out this natural expansion. There's not too much it looks like MotoK's going to be able to do. He's trying to get some Hellbats out. He still has the mining third base, but as Neeb moves siege tanks into his natural, it's going to become increasingly difficult to get this contain off of him.
Because of the Vikings, as soon as he lifted off his command center to get away from the siege tanks, Vikings took it down. And this is just, you know, he does have this third base over here, but 82 supply to 167. You know, everyone knows how close it has to be in their matches, but when it's mech versus mech, it just shows you how powerful the army is of Neeb. 65 SCVs to 43. And you know, the Harvesters aren't that far apart, so when you see the supply difference, it is purely an army. And with this huge Hellion siege tank push moving across the map, this might be too much for MotoK to hold. We'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, both players have the +2 attack, but Neeb's going to have his +3. He's getting the 4th base. The tanks are just going to try to push away Neeb now. MotoK takes out the Thor. He's going to come in, and it looks like he's going to get these siege tanks. But the next push is going to come in, and I don't think he's going to have enough to stop this. He's moving in with a ton of Hellbats, almost 16 of them, and 4 siege tanks. This is not looking like it's going to be very easy to hold. And there's the GG from MotoK.
You know, it was from the right from the start. You know, Neeb constantly aggressive. Yes, he was getting shut down, but like you've pointed out, Hellions are cheap, and when you're going mech, you have an excess of minerals. You don't have an excess of gas, so all your gas is being spent. You're going to be banking up minerals. So losing Hellions and doing no damage is not the end of the world. And then some of the drops he was doing, even though it wasn't as frequent as possible, were doing a decent amount of damage. And then from there, he just took the third base with the drops. He contained his opponent on 2 base and just was able to get a huge macro advantage.
Yeah, exactly like you said. In Wings of Liberty, it was kind of difficult because Mass Hellion didn't work terribly well versus mech builds, and you would float a lot of minerals, so typically you'd see a lot of command centers, but putting all those extra resources into Hellbats really gives you an edge in terms of just having a ton of meat to buffer for your actual powerful units. We saw those Thors do a lot of damage, but it was the Hellbats that made that possible by getting in the way of the tank fire, so I'm really curious to see what we're going to have in our next map here, and who is going to be sent out from